What is going on, guys? Welcome to my video. Today we're going to be talking about the Unholy Death Knight spec, and we're going to be talking about basically how good Unholy Death Knight is in patch 7.1.5. Also, we're going to be looking at the best DPS build for Unholy Death Knight, and then lastly we're going to be looking at some talents, and also of course I'm going to be showing you the basic rotation for Unholy Death Knights as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so in patch 7.1.5, two of our core abilities got a slight buff, namely Client Shadows, which went from 130% to 156%, and then Death Coil, which went from 127% to 150%. So both of those abilities are part of our core rotation as Unholy Death Knight. So what does it all mean, guys? Basically it means that Unholy went from being kind of a mediocre spec to an actually okay spec in 7.1.5. It's definitely not going to be a top DPS spec, not even close. The last time I checked, it was basically middle of the line. It was actually beating out Frost, which was pretty surprising. But is it a good spec, guys? Yes, it's definitely a good spec. Are you going to be topping the DPS meters with it? Probably not. Maybe with the bracers, but even then it is going to be pretty hard to be top of the charts. Alright guys, so now let's take a look at the top DPS spec for Unholy, and that is going to be the Mastery build, or the Client Shadows build, as other people call it. All it means is that you're going to throw everything into Mastery, and then after that you're going to go into Haste, and pretty much ignore Critical Strike because it's not really that important for this build to work correctly. And this is a build that I'm actually running right now, and it's a lot of fun because you're basically a ranged melee spec, because with Client Shadows it's a ranged ability, and it doesn't require you to be on top of the boss to do damage to it. So that means that you can, if you're in a boss encounter that requires you to kill adds and then switch back on a boss, that means you're not going to have a lot of downtime, and you're going to be doing consistent DPS in that encounter. Alright guys, so now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the talents for this Mastery / Client Shadows build. Basically I'm taking All Will Serve. You can take Bursting Swords if you're going to be in a boss encounter that has like a lot of adds, but basically I've tested both of them extensively and they're pretty much the same, so it really depends on your preference. For the second tier I'm taking Pestilent Pistols because for us, Unholy is basically all about Festering Wounds and about runes, and every time we pop 8 Festering Wounds we get a rune back, and that's always good as Unholy. Of course we're taking Client Shadows because we are a full Mastery spec, and Client Shadows scales really well with Mastery, obviously. This tier we're taking Sledge Belcher. This tier doesn't really matter, you can pretty much take whatever you want depending on the encounter. I'm taking Infected Claws here because our ghoul has a 35% chance to apply a Festering Wound on a target, which is really awesome because that means that if there is a boss encounter that requires you to switch on adds, you can pretty much leave your ghoul on the boss, and when you get back you'll have hopefully some pretty much Festering Wounds to pop, so that's always good. And then lastly we're taking Soul Reaper because having a mini haste buff on a 30-second cooldown is always really good for Unholy. We definitely love our haste. So now let me walk you through the opening or the basic rotation for Unholy Death Knight. So the first thing that you're going to do is, if you know that your raid leader is going to ask for heroism at the start of the fight, you definitely want to pop Army of the Dead. If the encounter doesn't require heroism at the start, then I would just save Army of the Dead until heroism is popped, because it's a really long cooldown, and it does a significant amount of DPS for you for 40 seconds. So definitely you want to, that's the priority system that I use. If they're going to pop heroism at the start, you pop Army of the Dead. If they're going to pop it later in the fight, then just save it for later on in the fight, guys. Alright guys, so next is, once you get on the boss, you want to stack at the very least 6 Festering Wounds. Then you want to cast your Soul Reaper, and then after that you want to go ahead and cast your Apocalypse. Then you want to enrage your Ghoul, summon your Gargoyle, and also don't forget to get your Virulent Plague on the target as well. Alright guys, so now we're going to go through this in real time. So we're going to summon our Army of the Dead, and then after that we're going to get on the target. We're going to apply at minimum 6 Festering Wounds. Once you have 6 Festering Wounds on the target, make sure you apply your Soul Reaper, followed by Apocalypse. Then you're going to enrage your Ghoul, you're going to summon your Gargoyle, and then make sure you have Virulent Plague on the target as well. And then from here we basically go through the rotation of making sure we have Festering Wounds on the target, and then blowing them up with Clawing Shadows. Also very important, if you get a Scourge of Worlds proc, that is going to take priority over everything, guys. So if you get a Scourge of Worlds proc, and you have enough Festering Wounds on target, make sure you're using Clawing Shadows, because Scourge of Worlds increases the Clawing Shadow damage by 30%. So make sure you guys are basically taking advantage of that buff whenever it procs. And as you can see, our DPS is actually okay, guys. It's not too bad. We capped out at what, 520k DPS, and then after the burst is over, we're doing about 400 plus K DPS, which is actually not too bad considering that, you know, we don't have any flasks, we don't have any food buffs, any potions of any kind. So as you can see, the Clawing Shadows build is actually not too bad. It is a really fun build, guys. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this build, whether you're doing it in raids or Mythic Plus dungeons. The damage is there. It's not as good as other classes that are doing like top tier DPS, but it's definitely consistently good DPS. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be bringing you some more Death Knight videos in the future. I have a lot of ideas planned. If you do enjoy Death Knight videos, make sure you subscribe. Also make sure you like and share this video. I would really appreciate it. It does help me a lot. And until then, I'll talk to you guys later.